Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. This is part 2 of the tutorial on how I made this 4th of July mini album. Part 2 shows you how to make the flaps, the folds, and all of the hidden elements in the book. Part 1 showed you how to make the cover, the hinge system, and the base pages. And also there was a video walkthrough of the whole book. So go ahead and check the links in the description box if you want to see any of those other parts. But here we go with part 2. All right, we're going to start this with the inside front cover. It's got 2 flaps and a pocket. The pocket is great for adding, extra photos or any memorabilia you want to include. And this is held together with a magnet. So to go ahead and get started, you'll need a piece of cardstock, 6 7/8 by 3 1/4. So grab the 6 7/8 by 3 1/4 and score 1/2 inch on the 2 short sides and 1/2 inch on one long side. We'll need to miter the corners, so go ahead and grab your scissors and let's miter the corners. Now you'll need 2 sheets of cardstock 6 inches by 8 inches. So the first one that's 6 by 8, put the long side against the side, short side at the top, and score it 1/2 inch and 5/8. 1/2 inch and 5/8. The other one on one long side, score it 1/2 inch and 3/4. Go ahead and miter the corners from that first score line to the edge of the paper. And then we can move the scoreboard out of the way and grab the book. Well, let's go ahead and fold and burnish what we've already scored. So you'll have to fold on both of those score lines. I know there's a really small channel in between. Just fold and burnish. So there's small channels, and that's going to allow a little room to fill the pocket. Go ahead and fold and burnish the 3 score lines on the pocket as well. All right, so the one that has the 1/2 inch and 5/8 is going to go on the left side of the paper. Left side of the cover. So just put it right against the edge of the cover of the book. I'm going to just add some art glitter glue, which is my favorite liquid adhesive, but you can use whatever adhesive you prefer to use. Make sure it's lined up, straight up and down. Make sure the bottom and the top are lined up with the book. I'll go ahead and grab my bone folder and just make sure it's adhered real well. All right, and now the 6 by 8 paper that's got the 1/2 and 3/4 inch score, I'm going to put art glitter glue on and put on the right side, but of course you don't want to go to the fold where the cover folds. Just go about a 1/16 of an inch to the left of that, and make sure that the side is straight and the top and bottom. I'll go ahead and burnish on the inside as well. Alright, fabulous. Now we're going to take the pocket and put the pocket in. So just line it up to the bottom of the page and make sure you stay on the inside of the score lines. And that goes in. It's a little tight, so just make sure everything's lined up before you adhere it. I'm just going to put the bottom on first, and then once I know that's lined up, then I can go ahead and glue the rest of it. You can put paper on when you're covering that. You could put it on first, then adhere the sides, or you can adhere the sides now and make sure the paper fits inside it. I'm going to go ahead and adhere it right now, just so the pocket stays in place while I'm finishing the rest of the book. Grab my bone folder and burnish, make sure that glue is down real well. And there we go. Pocket is done. I'm going to go ahead and add my magnets. So I'm using the basic gray magnets. Now you know they come in a set. There is a plus on one side. On one side you'll see a plus and a minus. So that is a match set. You want to make sure you put it no closer to the edge than 1/4 of an inch, because you want the paper to cover it once you put the decorative paper on. I'm just making sure that is straight. So I'm going to take off the adhesive backing on the positive one. And I'm eyeballing where it goes based on where the flap is, so we know it's going to fit there. And then I'll take off the adhesive backing on the negative one and just let it sit on top of that positive one and close the flap. I want to make sure it's staying sort of in an upright position. The flap doesn't get pushed down too much, and then you just push it down and the adhesive will stay on the flap. Alright, now we're going to work on the back inside cover. So the back inside cover has a flap that goes up and a pocket on the bottom, and it's going to have I call it a library style closure. So to make this, you're going to need one piece of cardstock 6 7/8 by 4, and you'll also need one 6 1/2 by 6. On this one, put the 6 1/2 inch side at the top and score 1/2 inch down the 6 inch side. And with the other piece, score on one long side and 2 short sides at 1/2 inch. We'll go ahead and grab some scissors and just miter those corners. And then go ahead and burnish on all the score lines. And I'm going to round the corners of this top flap. I just think it gives a more finished look. So go ahead and burnish the edges of this pocket. And now in the book, we'll go ahead and put the pocket down first. Again, I'm going to use a liquid adhesive. Sorry, it's out of camera range, but I'll use the liquid adhesive and get the bottom straight first, and make sure it's sort of over more to the right side than the left side, and of course don't go over the fold of the cover. Put it down. I'm going to burnish it with a bone folder to make sure the adhesive will stay. And then I'm going to take the flap for the top, add my liquid adhesive, and make sure when you put this down, again, you're staying to the right side of the cover, and it needs to be lined up with the pocket as well. I'll go ahead and grab my bone folder and burnish. Now you could either use a magnet or use the library style closure to hold this. I'm going to go ahead and adhere the side flaps down. You could wait on this till you put the paper, but I'm going to go ahead and put it down now that the bottom is dry and secure. I'll go ahead and put that aside, and I'm going to grab my 1/2-inch circle punch and grab some leftover scrap paper and punch. I'm going to cut 4 of them so I can have 2 sets of 2, and I'll just put glue on one and on a second one and cover it with the other piece. Now you will want to cover this with some decorative paper, but I just like to get this all ready so when I put everything together I don't have much to do. I'm going to go ahead and make a hole in the circle, just eyeball it and try to get in the center. Of course, once you get the decorative paper, you're going to have to do this step again. And I have a brad that I'm just going to put the brad in and do the same with the other one. And you can eyeball it where you're going to need a hole, but I like to put this on the decorative paper as well. So I'll make a hole, but when I put the decorative paper for the top one, I will make another hole. And I don't want to forget the string, so I'm going to put that through now. Whoops, it came out. I'll put it through. And I'm just going to adhere it with a little piece of tape. And I'll go ahead and put the the circle with the brad in it, and just have it here. And I'll just take the other one and stick it in the pocket, so when it comes time to cover it with decorative paper, it is all ready to rock and roll. Don't forget it though. Okay, we're done with that step. We're ready to move on to the next one. All right, we're going to make corner pockets for pages 1 and page 10. And to do that, we'll take a single sheet of 5x5 cardstock and score a 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. And then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer. And what you're going to do is cut on a diagonal from one corner to the other. So we'll just line it up so the corners are exactly straight on the cutting blade. And there we go. 2 triangles, and then we're going to trim the corners. And we will. Page 2 and 3 are matching. It's got a pocket that opens, and there's a side loading pocket for both of them. And then there is a large pocket and tag for photo mats in the front. So for these pieces, you're going to need 2 7.5 by 5 1/8. The mats will be 4 1/2, and I may trim that down to 4 1/4 to 7 1/2. The matching the pockets going on the flaps are 6 3/4 by 5 1/2, and then you'll just need one 8 1/2 by 5. So let's start out with the flaps. Which are 7 1/2 by 5 1/8. And we're simply going to score those on the long side at 1/2 inch. I'm going to do all my scoring, and then I'll do all my mitering, and then I'll do all my gluing. So there's that one. And then the 6 3/4 by 5 1/2, you're going to score on 3 sides, the 2 long sides and the 1 short side. And let's just rotate to get that done. Oops. And then this one that's going to be matching side pockets, that is 8 1/2 by 5. Score on all 4 sides at 1/2 inch. All right, and then let's get out our scissors and miter the corners. So on this one, I'll miter the 4 corners right at that X where the score lines meet. The 2 pockets, of course, we'll do the X down at the bottom of the page where they meet, and then miter up at the top. And then for the flaps, just miter those two corners. All right, put away scissors and let's burnish all those folds. I'm not going to burnish the folds on this one first. Before I do that, I'm going to take my paper trimmer, and so that's at 5, so half of that is 2.5. So we're going to place that at 2.5. And cut it in half. And now you have 2 matching pockets. And now we'll go ahead and fold and burnish. So these are 2 side loading pockets that are going to go inside the page. And let's put them on first. And in this case, I'm going to add some 1/4-inch score tape, just because it's going to go close to the spine of the book, and I just want it to hold while the glue is drying. I'll just add score tape on the long side. I'm not worried about the short side. And my favorite, art glitter glue. Okay, so we're going to put that right near the spine. And we'll match this one to the other side. All right, simple enough. Now let's put that aside. So we've got long pockets and we've got the flaps. So I'm going to turn the flaps. So there's the scored line. I'm going to turn it so the half-inch score is on the outside, and we'll go ahead and add the glue. And we'll just put that on each of the flaps. There's one. And here's 2. I'm just centering that on. And now that that's done, I'm going to turn that over. And add the glue. And that will go on the outside of the pages. And make sure the pocket is down at the bottom. There we go. And then just so I'm going to cut off a smidgen. It says 4 1/2. I'll change the instructions, but I'll make that 4 1/4. I still want to be able to fit a 4x6 photo on there. But there we go. And when you're done, just take whatever you have as far as scraps to make a photo mat inside the pocket. Okay, and now we're done with page 2 and 3. Page 4 has a spot for a 3x4 inch cut apart, so that'll open up and there will be a magnet here. There's a belly band with a photo mat, and then this page will open out. Then there's this flap, which will open up, and then this page opens like that. So there's a lot going on in this page. Let's get started. You're going to need a 6 by 7 1/2 piece, 5 1/4 by 7 3/4, 5 3/4 by 7 1/2, 3 5/8 by 4 1/8, and 2 1/2 by 8 1/2. So let's get out our scoreboard and start scoring. Okay, the 2 1/2 by 8 1/2, we're going to simply score 1/2 inch on both of the short sides. The 3 5/8 by 4 1/8, we're going to score 1/2 inch, and then 1 more eighth, so 5/8. The 5 3/4, 7 1/2, that will score 1/2 inch on the long side. 5 1/4 by 7 3/4, rotate with the long side at the top, score 1/2 inch on the short side. And then 6 and 7 1/2, you're going to score 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to make things easy and score on the short side, but I'm scoring on this side just so my paper's right side up when I put it in. All right, I'm moving the scoreboard, and I am going to use score tape to adhere these, just it goes faster for me. So I'm going to put that down, and then I'll go ahead and trim and burnish everything. So I'll use the 1/4 inch and art glitter glue. So I'll trim later all these corners. All right, let's start with the 5 3/4 by 7 1/2. Fold and burnish. And then I'm going to take the, where did it go? 3 5/8 by 4 1/8 and burnish on both those folds. And I'll add that onto the left-hand side, centering it on the page. Okay. And then I'll take the 5 1/4 by 7 3/4. Fold, burnish, peel off the backing, and add some glue. And that will go on the top of this page, matching up the right-hand sides. All right, now that that's done, I'll go ahead and adhere this to the page. So I'll add my glue. And again, this is for page 4. So we're going to put it to the left-hand side of the page. Making sure the bottom's lined up. And it is. It looks good. Now let's take the 6 by 7 1/2. Before I peel it off, and take the 2 1/2 by 8 1/2 and fold and burnish. And that you're going to center on this page. There we go. Now we'll adhere that to the page. So again, this is going on page 4 on the right-hand side of the page, close to the hinge, the spine, close to the center of the book. So we'll put it here and match up the bottom of the page. So this goes like this, that goes like that, and then you will put a magnet right here on the belly band and the flap, and that'll keep everything all together. All right, that's page 4. Page 5. It's going to have another flap, sort of matches this side. That'll open up, and then there is a larger flap on the left side, and then a flap that goes up and a flap that goes down. And again, I try to be cognizant of being able to put 4 by 6 photos on the page. So we'll start out with a 3 by 5 1/8, 3 5 1/8. We'll start out with 3 5/8 by 4 1/8, 6 1/2 by 5, and then 2 that are 4 1/2 by 7. Let us go ahead and do all our scoring. So we'll take the 4 1/2 by 7 and score both of those on one short side at 1/2 inch. The 6 1/2 by 5 will score 1/2 inch on the long side, and the 3 5/8 by 4 1/8 we're simply going to score at 1/2 inch. Do we need to score another 8? No, just 1/2 inch. Okay, and let us, again, I'm adding some score tape onto all of those 1/2-inch scores. I will go ahead and miter the corners. And burnish. All right, let's start with the small one first. Peel off my backing and add the glue. So of course I try to put the glue where the score tape isn't. And then I'm going to just center that so it's halfway down the page and put it on the right hand side of page 5. And then we will take the 6.5 by 5 and put that on the left side. Of course, you're not going to put it on the hinge, and again, center it on the page. You're just going to put it on the edge of the page. And then you'll have these two pieces left over. You're going to put one at the top and one at the bottom. And you can do it either way, but the bottom one I'm going to put about 1/2 inch from the left hand side. And the top one I'm going to put about 1/2 inch from the right hand side. And the magnet will go on the back of the smaller card to hold that all together. All right, we're on to page 6. All right, for page 6, you're going to need 2 sheets at 6.5 and 9.5, and you're going to score both at 1/2 and 5. 1/2 and 5. And you're going to simply attach the two together. We'll miter the corners. And fold and burnish. On one of them, I'm going to go ahead and attach score tape, but this time I'm going to attach it instead of when you fold it over on the outside. I'm going to do it on the inside. The other one I'm just going to glue. And I'll put that down that way. Butt that up and fold it over, and there we go with that. So basically what you have is a long photo mat that you can put 8 4x6 photos on. Now I want to show you how this is going to go in the book. So we're going to go ahead and cut the paper down, and I cut it down 3/8 less than the size of the book, of the page. And in this case, I'm going to grab my X-Acto. Now, I'll show you two ways of putting it on the page, but we're going to do it by figuring out where it's going to go on the page to center it. So if I put it right here, I'll grab my pencil and put a mark down at the bottom and at the top on the left-hand side. I'll grab my X-Acto, grab a straight edge, and we're just going to simply make a slit from one side to the other. And then, so here we have the score tape on the inside. You're going to put that little slit in there. Peel off the score tape. I'll add a little bit of glue. Fold that over. Burnish that real well. And so now it's going to go on the page. Let me show you here. Just simply, it'll go on the page like that. And then it'll open just like that. It looks like I didn't center it, so make sure you do a better job than I did. But anyhow, you get the idea. Now the other option you have is, instead of having it centered on the page, you simply can put it on the left-hand side of the page, and it will just open up like that. And then the other question is, how will you close it? You could put a 2-inch cut apart on both sides on a flap with a magnet. If you have it centered on the page, you could do the same thing. I'm going to have it with a little strip, almost like a belt, on each side with a magnet, and that'll hold it in place. So that is page 6. Now, since on this page we have room for portrait photos, I wanted to make a way of doing landscape photos. So we're going to make a pocket with removable waterfall. And we're not going to adhere the pocket right away, because I want you to be able to put pattern paper below and then put the pocket in. So let me show you how to do that. Let us start with one sheet of 4.5 by 6.5, 4.5 by 7. Is that right? That's 4.5. What do I need that for? Oh. And one 6.25 by 4 3/4. We'll start with the 6.25 by 4 3/4 first, and we will score that. All right, this is going to be the pocket, and I want to have some room to stick the photo mats in it. So we're going to score on 3 sides, the 2 short sides and 1 long side, at 1/2 and 3/4. So rotate and do 1/2 and 3/4. Rotate one more time and 1/2 and 3/4. All right, put that aside. Put aside the 4.5 by 6.5 and the 4.5 by 7s. Score all 4 of those on the short side at 1/2 inch. All right, that's it for the scoreboard. And I'm going to miter the corners of the 4.5 by 7s first. And I'm just going to glue these together to attach, so I don't need any tape on these. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and burnish at the folds. Alrighty, actually I'm going to unfold it now, turn it right side up. And if you're not sure of getting a straight line on here, you can use your mat if you have lines on it, and just use that to put all of those pieces together. You could also use your scoreboard if you wanted to. So we'll take one with the score line and then put the next one on. And keep going till all 4 of those are attached. And then the last one, the 4.5 by 6.5, you're just going to put that onto the last flap. All right, I'm going to let that dry before I fold it. And while that dries, we're going to work on this, which is the pocket. So we're going to miter the corners, and we're going to miter it past the first score line to the second. So slight miter at the top. And then when it comes to the bottom where there's those 4 lines meeting, we're actually going to just do a very slight miter to the corner. And I'm not going to use glue for this. I'm going to use 3/8 inch score tape. So we'll put that on. I'm going to trim that off. And then let's go ahead and burnish that. And fold at all the score lines. Fold and burnish. Okay, so what this is going to do is create a pocket. And again, I'm not attaching anything yet, but we're folding it. But it'll have a pocket with a gusset. So you can put the photos on the, again, I don't know what you call that. All right, let's go ahead and fold these. These should be dry. Okay, so these will go into the pocket. But all right, so it's going to go on this page, And I'm not going to attach it entirely. I'm just going to attach it to the bottom. That'll give you a chance to put your decorative paper on this page, and then you can peel off these flaps and adhere it. So to put it on the bottom, I'm going to peel off the backing of the score tape. I'm going to open this up and center it on the bottom of the page. And adhere it. Okay, so then once you put your pattern paper down, then you can peel off the backing tape and put that in, and then this will go in the pocket. Simple enough, huh? Page 8 and 9 are going to have matching top folding flaps. And your best bet is to put them on with a swivel tab. So if you have, you'll just need a brad and something to swing. You can use a cut apart, just back it on 2 or 3 layers of cardstock, or a chipboard embellishment, or an actual swivel tab, which you can get in the framing department of craft stores. So you're going to need for this 2 pieces of cardstock, 4.5 by 7. We're going to score both of those on the short side at 1/2 inch. And then I didn't do this in the example, but if you have some kind of corner punch, you could just use a corner rounder. But I'm going to use my crocodile corner chomper. I'll use the scallop just to add a little something to it. Just don't forget before you put your pattern paper on to figure out which is the top of it and which is the bottom, just so you don't get it backwards. Or put plain paper on the inside. Or just don't forget about the orientation. I'm going to glue this one on, and I'll just go ahead and miter the corners. And I'll fold it and burnish real well. And grab my book. So again, this is going to go both on page 8 and 9, so they match. And if the top of the paper looks a little rough, it's because I already put it on without putting it on the camera. So I'm doing it a second time. So there's one. And there's 2. So center it on the top of the page. I have about 1/2 inch on each side. So again, when you put the pattern paper on, you're going to put some kind of swivel tab with a brad on the paper and then attach that to the page. And since page 10 and the back cover is already done, we're done. The only thing you need to do is cut out the any mats, and I always wait till the end and see what size paper I have left, and the mats go into each of those hidden pockets, and I cut them 5.5 by 7. So again, you can put a 4 by 6 photo on those pages. So when I'm all done, we'll count and see how many photos we can actually get in this book. But that's it for the construction of the book. Now you go ahead and decorate it. And like I said, when I decorate, I cut about 3/8 of an inch less than the size that I am going to be decorating. Some people use 1/4 of an inch. I go by 3/8. So that's what I have for you as far as the tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see the new ones that I make, and check out all the other things that I make on my channel. All the materials, again, are available at countrycraftcreations.com. There will be a link in the description box. Thanks so much and have a fabulous day.